Okay, be honest. Have you ever walked through an airport, picked up an item, looked at the price tag, and just thought, are they completely out of their minds? Well, welcome to this explainer. For the next few minutes, I want you to think of me as your personal airport manager. We're going to step far away from the runways and take a look under the hood at the fascinating and honestly wildly misunderstood economic engine that keeps the entire modern travel industry flying. If you've ever wondered why things operate the exact way they do inside our terminals, you are in the absolute right place. Look, we've all been there. The sticker shock of seeing an $8 bottle of water is incredibly frustrating. As an airport manager, believe me, I hear this feedback all the time. Picture this. You've just battled through highway traffic, you're stressing over your boarding time, and then you step up to a kiosk only to find that a basic, everyday bottle of water costs more than double what it would just down the street from your house. It kind of feels like a trap, doesn't it? So what's really going on here? Well, the answer actually goes way beyond simple corporate greed. The truth is, you aren't just paying for hydration. You're paying to operate a highly secure, incredibly complex mini-city. Airports are these massive ecosystems requiring billions of dollars in infrastructure, round-the-clock maintenance, and an absolutely massive workforce. When you tap your card for that water, you're actually absorbing a tiny, tiny fraction of the immense overhead required to keep a 24-hour global transit hub running safely. Let's break down the physical logistics of actually getting that product onto the shelf. Because, getting a case of water into a terminal isn't exactly like a delivery truck just pulling up to your local corner store. First off, suppliers have to navigate these remote delivery zones, which are often miles away from the city center. Then, every single driver has to pass rigorous security protocols and background checks. Next, all those goods have to be safely transported through terminal security checkpoints. And finally, everything gets packed into what I like to call micro-storage. Every single step in that chain adds huge transportation and procurement expenses, which directly drives up the base cost of that water. And it doesn't stop with delivery. The financial reality of running a business in here is a totally different universe. Out on the street, a restaurant pays standard commercial rent. But inside a terminal, vendors have to bid for space through these complex proposals. And once they win, they pay incredibly high concession fees to the airport. We're talking sometimes 10 to 18% of their gross sales, or massive minimum annual guarantees. Plus, they're paying for specialized employee parking and funding $100 security background checks for every new hire. I mean, imagine running a restaurant where you have to pay $100 just to see if a dishwasher is even allowed to walk through the back door. That is our daily reality. And here's another crazy thing. Because we have such limited backroom storage, our vendors really can't buy in bulk. That means their unit costs skyrocket just to compensate for the inventory we simply don't have the space to hold. Retail inside an airport is an exercise in extreme geometry. Out in the real world, a store keeps pallets of backup inventory in a huge stockroom. Inside a terminal, every square meter is fiercely contested by security lines, baggage carousels, and walkways. So vendors are forced to make frequent, incredibly small deliveries, which is pretty much the most expensive way you could ever stock a business. Now, the kicker to all of this is that once you clear security and you're just waiting for your flight, you essentially become a captive audience. You have nowhere else to go for lunch. It's basic supply and demand. You can't exactly just walk out, grab a cheaper sandwich from the deli across the street, and come back. You'd have to take your shoes off and go through the TSA all over again. And let's be real, nobody is doing that just to save $3 on a turkey club. This isolation practically creates a micro-monopoly for the vendors inside. Plus, we know travelers often have a bit of disposable income, ready for their trip, or they're just super stressed and want a comfort purchase while they wait. But from where I sit as a manager, that captive audience is absolutely vital. Why? Because up to 40% of our global revenue now comes from non-aeronautical streams, things like retail, parking, and food. Historically, airports relied almost entirely on aeronautical revenues, the fees we charge airlines to land and use our gates. But today, those fees usually only cover about half the cost of actually running the airport. Without the revenue from that expensive water or that duty-free perfume, the entire financial model of the modern airport would literally collapse. So you might be thinking, just build more stores and lower the prices. Well, our biggest business constraint isn't actually passenger demand, it's concrete. Get this, 44% of airport operators cite limited physical space as the absolute main ceiling on their commercial performance. We genuinely want to offer you way more shops and restaurants to drive down those prices through competition, but these legacy terminals, mostly built back in the 60s and 70s, have finite architectural boundaries. Expanding concrete walls costs millions of dollars, so we have to ruthlessly maximize the commercial density of every single inch we already have.
Because of that, we are constantly studying passenger flow. We actually know that giving you just 10 extra minutes of what we call dwell time, waiting in our terminals translates directly into a 5 to 15% increase in retail spending. Dwell time is the golden metric in airport management. The faster we can get you checked in and safely through security, the more your stress drops. And a relaxed passenger, that's a spending passenger. Someone with an hour to kill is definitely going to browse a bookstore, grab a premium coffee, or sit down for a nice meal.
Now, to manage this dynamic and actually try to protect you, the passenger, we often implement pricing caps. We use things like street pricing plus 10% to keep markups somewhat fair. This basically means a vendor can only charge 10% more than what they charge outside the airport. However, heavy vendor consolidations sometimes makes enforcing these limits super challenging. You might walk into a food court and see 6 totally different storefronts, but behind the scenes, they're often operated by just 1 or 2 massive, multi-billion-dollar concession corporations. That lack of true internal competition puts constant upward pressure on prices. All of this careful, behind-the-scenes economic planning is fueling a huge transition. We're evolving from being just a traditional transit structure into an aerotropolis, basically a true city airport model. We're no longer just runways and drab waiting rooms. We are becoming massive, self-sustaining economies. An aerotropolis integrates logistics, culture, technology, and commercial enterprise into one completely seamless environment. It's a fundamental shift in how we view the role of the airport in modern society. Just think about the spaces you walk through today, the bright neon lights, the high-end boutique designs, the pristine floors. Your money is completely transforming our spaces from dingy, boring waiting areas into vibrant luxury destinations that honestly rival downtown high streets. Passengers today expect variety, authenticity, and really premium experiences. We're literally turning the terminal into an experience-scape, where the act of shopping and dining is becoming just as much a part of your vacation as the destination itself.
So those premium prices you pay at the cash register, they are directly funding wild amenities you would have never expected in a transit hub a decade ago. I'm talking sleeping pods, yoga rooms, and high-tech cinemas right near your gate. To compete globally, airports are building indoor gardens, world-class museums, and luxury spas. So when you buy that incredibly expensive sandwich, you're actually contributing to the overall infrastructure that allows us to provide free high-speed Wi-Fi, perfectly clean facilities, and quiet zones that actually make travel bearable.
So knowing all this, knowing the incredible logistical hurdles, the strict geometry of our terminals, and the cutting-edge amenities this ecosystem builds, I have to ask, does the sting of that expensive water finally feel like a fair ticket to the ultimate modern travel experience? It's a really complex balance between necessary operations and customer satisfaction. The next time you find yourself with an hour to kill before your flight, take a look around at the massive mini-city operating right in front of you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I really hope this changes the way you view your next trip to the terminal.